So today we welcome a dating expert. Are you happy with that nickname?
Nah, I don't know. I don't like to, expert makes me that's a word that makes me nervous.
Not so many people gonna share what they do or who they date, but thank you Stephen for coming to us and share his kind of private life and experience of dating Vietnamese girls. My first question is, what's your dating experience with Vietnamese girls?
Because of the corona, it wasn't really much dating going on. I mean, it was more like also, I noticed as my hair turned white, as I got older, things changed. I mean, not just Vietnam, the whole world. Vietnam is very similar now to the rest of the world, where money seems to be a big driving force for people. And my wife's country, for instance, if you have some money, you'll have no problems finding people to hang out with. Vietnam, even if you have some money, if you're older, you probably have to have, there's like a formula. I mean, I started coming here maybe 4.5 years ago, and this corona was a tough time. I mean, it was rough for everybody. I thought I was the only one, but I talked to some other people. And some people, the younger people had it easier, and people who do well on Tinder has it easier.
So let's say, did you date Vietnamese girls or women, young, on, or middle age?
I hung out with a few people, that I met through the different
What
avenues.
kind of job are they? Are there?
Well, one person was a massage therapist in Phu Quoc. A couple other random people. I met some Russians way back 2 years ago, but that didn't work out because it was during the Corona, and during Corona things, like I said, Corona tightened everybody up. One Ukrainian woman I hung out with, it was kind of interesting because I hung out with her 2 days, and then 6 months later, when I was in Nha Trang, on Facebook, her passport picture shows up. She and her boyfriend stole all the furniture of the apartment they were living at. They like cleaned out in Monet. So that wasn't really dating either. Again, that was just somebody I hung out with. It was very, very casual. But yeah, during the Corona, things tightened up. I mean, I had a much better time 4.5 years ago.
How about now,
Yeah.
post-COVID? For COVID already in.
Uh,
What happened these days?
You know what? After I got back here, this last 3 weeks, I hardly go out at all because I actually hot countries I don't drink, and from the experience last time, I just didn't like the nightlife
I
because
see.
because nightlife in Vietnam is very people hanging out in families, people hanging out in these groups. It's hard to be a single person, go in and just hang out. Kind of burnt out from my last trip. I mean, everybody I met in Nha Trang was always in town for 24 hours, 48 hours. So I barely talked to anybody on this last 3 weeks. I was actually kind of antisocial because of what happened last time. Because I would meet people in the elevators, and they're literally leaving in like 4 hours. So it's just like I did meet a really beautiful, nice woman from Hanoi. She was actually one of the classiest women I ever met. But she.
What?
I'm a year older than her father, so that she was beautiful. She was into yoga. She was a great dancer. She picked up the frisbee within 5 minutes. But overall, people say, why don't you date women that are older? Older women in Vietnam speak no English at all.
But they are actually nice, and they should
But,
be the
but
target.
right,
Woman.
but women over a certain age have no English capability. And I have dated a couple of women. I mean, I've hung out with a few, even. But overall, the older women in my area tend to have mental problems, a lot of them. So I kind of gave up.
Well, so last night we stopped at yeah. What happened with the on woman back home in your country?
I was talking about how the people I hang out with, there's a couple of people, unfortunately, there's a condition that the whole world has called hoarders. There's actually a TV show called Extreme Hoarders, and one of the shows was about a woman who had 30 cats, and she had 9 dead ones in her freezer.
Oh my God.
And I know people that have those tendencies. In fact, I know a lot of people like that. I have about 4 friends that have spending thousands of dollars a year. Like one friend that spent over 100,000 in 10 years because her parents died and left stuff in storage. And her brothers, she has 3 brothers, her brothers didn't want it, furniture. She kept it. She doesn't make very much money, only maybe about 20,000 a year. So she's spending 12,000 a year for 10 years on storage of junk. The other woman I talked about, the one that drives around, who has 4 men
who's storing stuff for her, and she has an apartment, and she has storage, and not only that, but she's totally like not very attractive. I'm sure 30 years ago she was, and she goes. One of my friends, she goes to his house, and she'll like drive by his house and call him and say, "Hey, can I come over for dinner?" And she'll bring a bag of lettuce, and that's all she eats. But meanwhile, she's actually gained. She lost some weight and she's gained it back, and so she's mentally. She had 3 children, but the state took the children away 35 years ago.
Besides storing junk, actually,
Yeah.
well, I don't think it's not only in America,
It's
but
everywhere.
also in
It's-
my
yeah.
country. For
Yeah, yeah.
example, my mom,
Yeah.
she loves store
Yeah,
plastic bag.
Well, you know.
Every time I come home, I see and I throw away on the plastic bag,
Yeah.
and every time I do that, and she cry. So that's happening in Vietnam
it's-
also to old women.
It's not just old people. It's an attachment issue. It's people
Yeah.
when they're younger, they like one person who's an ex-boyfriend of one of my sisters. He said to me, he said the reason I don't throw anything away is as a child my mother threw away all my toys. So he's like 77 years old now, and he still has things in storage he doesn't use. You know what? If you don't use the stuff, you should throw it away.
Sure.
If it's just something that you want because of some sentimental attachment, because I have that problem too. I mean, I keep things in my house that, and the other problem with America is people buy things that they never use, and I've had that problem.
So guys, make sure we throw away something before we
Right.
stock up some new
Well,
thing.
yeah.
If we want our mind to be fresh
Right,
and
right.
light.
Well,
The less, the better.
I have a very rich Korean friend, and he has quite a lot of money. And one day, he lives in a small little house in a small town, no kids, just a Brazilian wife. So one day I said, "Hey, Don, why don't you buy a big house?" And you know what he said? That was very smart. Why? So I can buy junk to fill it up? Because he's right. The bigger the house, the more junk you have to buy to fill it up, right?
Yes. What are the girls here better than the girls back home?
Oh, it's just because as an American Chinese traveling abroad, I'm still a little bit better off because the money I have here goes a long way.
In consider about you spend more money or the woman back home to a little bit crazy for you. How do you find the girls in Vietnam for those you hang out with in the last 3 or 4 weeks been in Vietnam? This post-COVID?
I actually didn't meet I hardly met any new people because from my last trip, I just kind of gave up because Nha Trang has a lot of people coming in for 2 days. So when I was here before, I would meet people and they're in the elevator and I'm like, "Oh, how long are you?" "Oh, I'm leaving in 2 hours." So I stopped talking to anybody. And a lot of the people that come here are married, boyfriend, they're with a family. I mean, I met somebody in Monet about 10 days ago and she was like with a group of people from her company. I talked to her for 10 minutes and then I realized, oh, this is pointless because they're leaving tomorrow. It's like, so I didn't even, I try to socialize, but when everybody's leaving in like an hour or 2 hours, and I had this problem even 3 years ago in Monet.
So how about the girls? Be here longer time that you meet up.
I did meet somebody a year ago from Hanoi, very beautiful, very classy, one of the nicest women I met. But I'm a year older than her father. So her father's 60 or 61. She was beautiful, she did yoga, she picked up the frisbee and started tossing. Just like, I'd marry her in a heartbeat, but she's quite wealthy, so she doesn't actually need to. Like the really rich women out there, they don't really need a man.
How about in regard of the girls that you've been hanging out with in the last 3 weeks here?
Yeah, I haven't hung out with that many.
What do they require or they want or what you think they need?
Well, one problem
These girls?
I've had is, I try to have somewhat of a relationship. One woman I hung out with had a kid, and I told her, I said, I can't get married again with someone with a kid because if I bring you back to the States, I would have to go back to work, seriously work hard. Because have one kid in America, it's $280,000 to raise them from 0 to 18. And then you got to pay for college, which I have a friend who's got a daughter now, 16. He's sending her to a private school that has skiing. It's costing him $90,000 a year for a private high school that has skiing. In America, the rich, if you're rich, if you make over $250,000 a year, your kids are going to cost you about, once they hit 15, they'll cost you over $100,000 a year because they send them to tennis camp, ski camp, or they go to Europe for 3 months and they pay for the whole trip. The parents, not all parents are like this, but a lot of people in America, they buy their child at 16 a new car, a $35,000 car. And in America, when a kid is under 25, the insurance is 4 times the normal amount.
So you're not going to get married to her?
So I hung out with her and I liked her, but she was like, oh,
What does she want?
well, she's, a massage therapist. And she was like, oh, a relationship. And I was like, you know, I can't give you. I mean, you have a kid. There's only so much I can do. I'm going to tell you right now, but I like you. One of the reasons I came back to Vietnam was because of you. And then after a while, I just stopped hanging out with her because.
To the girls you meet in this trip, what do they require? I mean, what do you find out that they want after COVID
Like everywhere else,
from men?
like everywhere else in the world, and especially, you know, these countries like that are somewhat tourist-based, everybody needs
Tourism.
security, money. They want. My wife's country, the Dominican Republic. I mean, I actually really like that place a lot. The women there are. It's much easier to find. Like I was just talking to my friend in Chiang Mai just now, John. He actually said, "Oh, you know, there's a dog. I come to Koh Lanta. Every time I come here, a dog comes and hangs out with me all night, and I feed him. He's my dog for the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks." I said, "That's what it is like in the Dominican Republic. You go there, very easy to find a companion, man or a woman. You can find someone that'll just come stay with you, and you pay for the food. You give them a little money maybe, and the reason I married my ex-wife was in 30 years of going to my ex-wife's country, she was one person that actually didn't ask me outright for money. She just said that she was smart. She was working on the long game. She ended up marrying me. But because everybody else I met in the last 32 years, only 2 other women that I meet didn't ask for money outright. Almost everybody in that country. And even in Vietnam.
So yes, let's come back to the tourism got affected. So most girls want money,
Yeah,
but you find it easier to connect to find company in Thailand than Vietnam.
Thailand, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, Philippines, Dominican Republic, especially the Philippines and the Dominican Republic, the tourist trade is such a huge part of their economy that if I had been stuck in those 2 countries, Philippines, Thailand, or Dominican Republic, I would have been much more happier. Because when I was in Vietnam, I was actually mostly alone.
Yeah, what was wrong with the girls in Vietnam?
I think the couple that I actually met and thought I had a connection with, they just, I don't know. There's one in Phu Quoc. I thought I got along with her, but she asked me for money after one time I hung out with her, and I gave her a little bit of money. And then the next time I saw her, and you know, I don't really like it. It's one thing if you say, oh, you know, can you buy me something? But she was too out forward. With the Dominican woman, the money situation is, you know, oh, you know, just I want this now. Give me some money. My father's in the hospital. That's the classic.
Please list for me the questions that Vietnamese girls usually approach men and ask for money. What are the excuses or the question? How do they ask? Please list me that.
Well, they ask straight out, or they try to, like if I ask them they wanted to go traveling, you know, you end up negotiating about like an allowance. You know, like they want to get an allowance. And there was a woman I met in Phu Quoc.
Travel company. So
Right.
how much did they
Well,
ask you?
there's a woman in Phu Quoc who's this really beautiful accountant. She was like this much taller than me, beautiful, with 2 kids. And she right away was like, I'm an accountant. I make 12.5 million dong a month. If I travel with you, I think she wanted 10 million dong a week. And what happened was, I just said, that's crazy. That's a lot of money if I'm paying for everything else. So later on, 6 months later, we stopped talking. 6 months later, here in this hotel, I was walking out and I met this 63-year-old, half Vietnamese, half American from San Francisco. His name was, well, anyways. So he was talking about his girlfriend. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend's beautiful, tall. She's an accountant I met her in Phu Quoc. She's,
Sound the same person.
right, exactly. I'm like, wait a minute. I pulled it up on Facebook. I showed it to him. I said, is it her? And he's like, oh my God. So get this. You know what happened after that? 3 weeks later, he calls me. He's like, Toma, she picked a fight and she took off. He spent over $5,000 in 2.5 months on her. He spent a lot of money on her. And then she picked a fight and took off. And you know, he was 30 years older than her. She was 31, 32, about your age. I don't know, around a little older. And she didn't get an allowance from him, but she knew he had a lot of money, so she hung out with him and then picked a fight and left. And you know what? The thing I realized about a lot of women is, as you get older and older, the money factor becomes, like, I have a cousin who married a man recently. 6-7 years ago, I was hanging out with her. She was on her 2nd husband, a fireman from Maine. And she actually said, oh, I don't like dating Asian guys. Her first 2 husbands were white. So she actually said, oh, I don't like dating Asian guys because it reminds me, I feel like I'm dating a relative. I've heard this from other Asians. They feel like they're dating a relative. It's kind of a weird thing because a lot of people actually, in America, there's a certain part of the country where people actually marry their cousins. I've been hanging out all over the world for 35 years now. So as I gotten older, the older I got, the much more about money it is.
So guys, be careful with anyone who is accountant from Hanoi.
But she was
Okay, so
Beautiful woman, quite beautiful.
wow.
One of the most beautiful women I met.
So what the message for everyone is Vietnam actually is a small country. Even though we are 100 million population, however, everyone will know each other,
Yeah, there's-
like this story.
There's
So
only so many there's only so many people traveling around. So many people on Tinder, Match. Be careful wherever you date. Anywhere in the world, it's a jungle out there. Spoken from a veteran. Sometimes the craziest animals are not on four legs. The most dangerous animals are on two.
all right. So but so far, I think you had a great time in Vietnam. So would you like to share us your bad experience as well as good experience for the last 3 or 4 weeks you back to Vietnam in this post-COVID time?
Well, like I said before, because of my last 18 months here, and I saw the social dynamics of Nha Trang, I actually, on these last couple of weeks in Nha Trang, I didn't really try to meet people. Because I realized during the holidays, everybody was coming through for 2 days. And I gave up on trying to meet the locals. Because I did try meeting locals, and so you have lower expectation. I mean, I was trying to hang out with the people I knew already. And so yeah, I guess the worst experience was, I mean, I would have gone out more, but I've told you before, the expats, when they travel through Asia, they all pick up smoking. So I don't like being around cigarette smoke. So I don't go out at night. And plus, I don't drink anymore hardly. At nighttime in hot countries, like when it's over 85 degrees, I don't drink at night much. It makes me very tired.
Yeah, can you share us like okay? So you don't feel like bad experience. You don't like when people or more Vietnamese rush out of the country now. You don't feel like to be in a group.
Yeah, it's partly because I've been here during the last couple of weeks. There's a certain amount of holiday makers, and they're all in town for 20, 48, 28, 62 hours. I mean, you know. So I talked to a few people, but everybody was coming through and leaving, and this happened before when I was in Nha Trang, and I got kind of tired of it because you meet somebody in the elevator and they're like, yeah, I'm leaving in 4 hours, you know. So.
Oh, that is one bad experience. Any other bad thing that make you unhappy?
I had a little stress yesterday because I was waiting for my information to travel, but that was stress because I wasn't sure what was happening. But otherwise, no, everything's been okay.
Wow, so good. You still can enjoy the food, see other Vietnamese happy.
Yeah.
Everything cheap now.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
More quality, no much scammer these days. I don't know why. Yeah. So, did you have a great time the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like I said, yeah.
Yeah. What made you happy this trip?
Oh,
Because you are going to fly soon.
Well, I missed a few of my friends. You know, there's the people I hung out with. You know, it was nice to see them again. Nice seeing you again. You know.
Yeah.
We didn't spend much time before because of COVID.
Yeah. So, what actually made you satisfied this time in Vietnam?
I was happy because I didn't expect anything. You can't come here expecting to really have a great social life because the social scene is very. If you're not a smoker and you're not a drinker, you're gonna be limited. And on top of that, I gave up on hanging out with expats. In Da Nang, I was hanging out with a lot of English, Australian, British throwing frisbee, and it was very, very superficial. I would find somebody to throw with, and then they would disappear. There's one guy I met. I don't know if I told you. I tossed with him a little bit. He moved down to the beach a little bit further. I tried to join him again. His chubby Czech friend came up and said, "Oh, it's just gonna be the two of us." And then 3 minutes later, some English guy came and joined them. But for some reason, his Czechoslovakian plump friend, the guy, acted like it was...
So you don't expect anything, and now you had a good time.
Right. Like I said, Da Nang, I like the beaches better. The people were very superficial.
What did you do that so far last week?
Oh, I reconnected with my people that I had met before.
You met the old people,
Yeah.
you met friends.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the point I want to say.
I gave up trying to meet new people because I knew the holidays.
Meet your own friends, those you know that they're good.
Yeah.
Give up, meet new people.
Well, because of the...
Any more advice for other
I
travelers?
guess if anybody out there really wants to have you have to kind of learn the language a little bit. And I tried, but every time I looked at Google Translate, the G and the Z sound, the Z sound is spelled the G and R. So it's like they don't even phonetically spell out the words right. So because my sisters, I have 3 sisters, and they're all like, you got to try to learn the language a little bit every day. And I was like, every time I looked at Google Translate, it just made me really mad because it's not phonetically spelled correctly.
So learn the language.
As COVID goes away, let's hope at some point, because it seems like it's going on forever, I think things will get better. The COVID really shut people down because people became much less sociable here and everywhere in the world.
The same?
Yeah.
Oh, Vietnam.
Most of my friends in America got really.
Oh, I don't know those the people you met.
Right.
For me, most Vietnamese I've known.
Right.
Oh my God, they delete the word corona in their mind.
Right,
Vietnamese,
yeah.
those who I actually talk, nobody care anymore.
Yeah, people are walking around, but they're wearing masks though. I see 80%
Yes,
of the
Vietnam
population
is a
wearing masks.
mask country.
Right,
We
yeah.
follow it.
There was someone in the countryside share me a joke that, oh, now you can forget wearing a helmet, but you cannot forget wearing a mask. So next time if you're in Vietnam countryside and see these kind of people wearing masks without helmet, don't think about me.
But we actually do not care.
Yeah,
But the
people-
more and more I see less people wearing masks
Right.
now.
Well, in the USA, it's like that now.
So, yeah, it's
People are
totally
pretty
normal.
sick of- they're pretty sick of
Totally
it.
normal here.
Yeah, we're probably gonna wrap it up because it's
Right?
getting
So,
yeah.
thank you for
Okay,
coming
alright,
and
okay.
sharing our experience. Maybe we'll see him again one day. Have a good day.
All right. Okay.
We're together by kissing that you are the one that I need my heart down holding near where you makes me seeing you is like 100% of what it should be. Don't know how you make me, you got me feel successful. Only done deal, you're wonder in my eyes makes me realize, can't believe you were mine. Give me your respect.